be retired if I want to when I'm 40. Or, start my family and be a stay-at-home mom and still bring in $100,000 a month. Like that's what I want to do. I don't want to have to work and be a mom and barely make $100,000 a year. I want to, I want to do it all, and probably in reverse order.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, party people? This is Corey Boatwright. I am your host of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters and the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits. How are you? Are you doing well? All right. I hope you're doing phenomenal, right? Having a phenomenal, productive, fun, intentional, grateful day, right? And what we are going to do today is bring to you someone that I'm really excited to do the interview with. Her name is Whitney Nicely. Whitney Nicely, okay? And she's out of Tennessee, and she does investing there. And she's actually went from no investments, right? No strategies, no investments, to 19 houses and 19 apartment units and even 7 chunks of land in like less than 3 years. And she created this whole process now where she calls an autopilot system that she's been able to travel around the United States, speak on stages. And this girl is just crushing it. And she's got just a phenomenal personality. You're going to love this interview. She is so laid back, and she is someone that actually makes pink signs, those pink signs, right, of buying houses. And she went from selling dump trucks to be a real estate investor. How's that for you? So you're going to dig this interview. She is just bubbly and great. But she is also someone that knows her craft, and you are going to immediately understand why she's so successful. Okay. So make sure that you text the word profit to 38470 to download your ultimate real estate investing quick start guide. If you haven't done that, why are you waiting? Right? Text the word profit to 38470 and it will automatically be sent to you. Also, if you're interested in real estate and coaching, right? Wholesale coaching, love to talk with you about that. We have many emails that come in, and we get applications on a weekly basis for wholesale coaching. My company and my team, we do over 100 wholesale transactions a year. We send out over 30,000 pieces of mail every single month, and over 6 figures in marketing every single year. Can love to talk with you about what works and what we're doing, and love to see if we're a good fit if you want to do more for coaching. So go to coryscoaching.com to watch a video that I made for you to check out, see if we're a good fit for one another. And I'm going to ask you a few questions right on that page. All right. Corey, Corys, coaching.com. Okay. Here is Whitney Nicely. All right. Mrs. Whitney, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you today?
I'm doing phenomenal. We have no rain here in Oklahoma today, which is great. We've been having some crazy storms, crazy tornadoes all around us. So today's a good day when we don't have, $50 size hail. So,
No Winchester houses blowing around then?
No, well, it's funny. Whenever we do have big storms, there is a mailer that goes out that talks about if your house is damaged, and we do get calls about it. So it is, there is an opportunity there, right? Hey, you gotta love capitalism. That's one of the great things about this country, right?
Yep.
Well, Whitney, thanks for taking the time to be on here. And, I'm interested to hear more about your story as really, you're focusing right now, as I understand, on lease options. One of the other, my buddy that we do another podcast, Joe McCall, called the REI Tech Show, the Real Estate Tech Show, that we've been working on, just a recent new podcast. He does, a lot of lease options as well. And so I'm pretty familiar with them. We focus in Greater OKC mostly on wholesales, but I want to find out what's working really well for you on lease options. Before we get into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about just on outside of the lease option? We know that's one of your expertise now, but how did you get involved with real estate investing, and what is one of your bigger influences when you got involved?
My mom has been a real estate investor for longer than I've been alive, but she does it the old boring way where she just takes a lump of cash and just throws it at a property and hopes and prays that it's making money, and just kind of knowing that when she's getting ready to retire, there'll be mailbox money coming in. So she, throws spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks.
Totally.
So I grew up like most people want their kids to grow up where there's money in the mailbox every month. Like I thought everybody just had money in the mailbox. I didn't know bills came in the mailbox. I thought money did. So that's how I grew up. And then I got into my 20s and I was like, wait a second, where's my mailbox money? And Mom was like, you better go buy something if you think you're going to get mailbox money. Right. But I was in my 20s and money went everywhere except my savings account or a real estate portfolio, or, it was just gone. So it really, I struggled in the beginning. I bought a bunch of land just to go through the process and figure it out. Okay. I bought a half-acre piece of industrial land at an online auction. I'm an auctioneer also. Okay. And so I bought half-acre piece of industrial land, and I rented the driveway for $250 a month. We paid $1,500 for the whole thing. So in 6 months, we had all of our money back, and they paid me since I had the property. So I got 3 months of back rent.
Oh, that's great.
So, and now we rent the driveway to one company and we rent the half acre to another company. We get $750 a month off a $1,500 investment.
Can't beat that. What's the return on that? Infinity?
Pretty much. The only thing better would be $1,500 every month.
Right. That's right. Which that's coming, right? You just got to add some more things. You got to tell them that if they want to add signage to it, then that's another $100 a month.
I already roll all the maintenance and the taxes and everything into it. They pay me that on top.
Oh, I see.
So
pretty creative.
I'm trying.
pretty creative. What got you? So your mom. So
my mom.
What else? Did you have anybody like a mentor, anybody that you followed that was doing land? One of my friends is Jack Bosch. He does a lot of land deals. Did you have anybody that you kind of followed that way in terms of that was on more the mainstream?
Well, my mom didn't have a plan, and I needed a plan, and I wanted the formulas and I wanted the marketing. I wanted the whole thing. My mom just kind of took whatever kind of came along because she's been doing it for 40 years. So people just knew that she bought stuff.
Right.
I needed more than that. So I joined the Knox RIA. And the president, Victor, was holding a special lease option class on 2 Thursdays. And it was $75. And I was, broke in my 20s. And I told him, I was like, I don't have $75 for this thing that you're doing. And he was like, you go to it. And if you don't like it, I'll give you your $75 back. So within like 10 or 15 minutes, I fell completely in love with lease options. And I didn't pay attention to the rest of the speech because I was on my phone trying to figure out who Ron LeGrand was. And then I put 3,000.
He's a big old tall guy. He's actually really tall in person.
He's a really nice guy. I'm in his book, The Less I Do, The More I Make. Yep. That was my first deal ever. But, so before this special night is over, I put $3,000 on my credit card and I'm going to Florida the next month. So I went from, I don't have $75 to $3,000 and I booked a trip.
Right. That happens, doesn't it? It just happens that way, right? You get emotional sometimes, but then you know what? That's where those risks, when they pay off. And obviously, look at where you are today. I mean,
I know
it's pretty great to be able to see, just from that little investment at the time. I'm sure it wasn't like you said a little, but now in comparison to everything that you've done, I mean, I can't even, it doesn't even scratch the surface. I'm sure. Did you have a breaking point before all this, before real estate? Were you working some other job, 9 to 5 that you just said, man, I got to get out of here?
Well, my mom has 4 other companies. She has 7 companies, I think, but 4 of them are trucking companies.
Okay.
And I was working for her trucking company. And she was trying to buy houses on the side and whatever. And she bought one from an agent. The only time she's ever bought anything from an agent. And I saw how much commission he made. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. If anybody's going to make that much money off my mom, I'm going to get my license. Because it's easy, right?
So I'm family. I got to be making more.
Exactly. But I went and I got my real estate license and I listed a house and I did not make as much as that guy made on my mom. Right. And then I realized that being a regular real estate agent was hard. And I bought 2 houses. I was buying all this land and I, thought I'd figured it out. So I bought 2 houses and started losing my money left and right. And then I realized that this just wasn't working. And once I figured out like how to really calculate rent and when you get your payback and, all that kind of stuff, it was going to be like 115 years before I made enough money to retire. And even in my 20s, I didn't have that much time.
Right. You're like, this. I gotta work a new plan.
So, and right about that time is when Victor was like, yeah, we're going to learn about lease options. Y'all need to come by, blah, 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 blah. I went and it was like a snowball. I mean, just boom, 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 boom. So I went to the Knoxville lease option class in November. I went to an owner financing thing in December. I went back for a boot camp in February. I had my first deal in February. We closed in May, and that was 2014. So it's been right at 3 years, and I've done 54 deals.
That's fantastic. That is really good.
So I hit the ground running. Like I had no questions. I had all my fears and I was just like, you know what? They don't matter. I got to get this done.
You overcame the fears. It's interesting. So you mentioned Knoxville, Tennessee. That's where you're out of. Your market is, at least right now. Are you doing other kind of virtual things as well outside of your state?
My husband lives in Georgia. So I buy some stuff in Georgia because I go visit Georgia quite a bit.
Sure.
So I've done 3 deals here this year, but the bulk of my properties are in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I'm thinking Florida next year.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So why don't you talk about, and you're a broker right now, correct? You said?
I'm heavily licensed. I'm a real estate broker in Tennessee and Georgia. I'm an auctioneer and a general contractor. And my daddy likes to tell everybody that I'm also a notary, just in case. That
little extra $100, $50, that matters every 5 years.
That's the one he's proud of.
But it's on the door, Notary of Republic. That's that's the part that makes you feel,
all sorts of really cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what is working right now with lease options? We call one of the things that we like to talk about is called the Profit Master investing strategy, and it's basically what's the thing that's really working well, that's impacting the bottom line? What's something that you can share with those listening right now as they're getting either they're involved in lease options right now or they're thinking about getting involved in lease options? What's one of your great strategies that's just crushing it?
Okay, so in Tennessee, I had this thing called Pride that got in the way of some deals.
I never heard of that. What is that called again?
Yeah, it's Pride. Maybe men don't have it. I don't know.
Never heard of it. Must be a woman thing.
So I wanted pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods with pretty people, and that's all I wanted to deal with, right?
Right.
I wanted us. That's what I wanted. And so that's all I bought. That's all I have. And I've made really good money in Tennessee. But since I've been in Georgia, I keep hearing about this thing called an ugly house business.
I see.
And there's some ugly houses here.
Okay.
But they make really pretty money.
They make really pretty money, right?
Yes. Okay, so I got from my yard boy. Okay, this is where I get my deals, just from the yard boy, not from a mailer or anything, just from yakking out on the sidewalk. He's got 13 houses. Okay. And I was like, well, do you have any you don't really want? And he was like, yeah, I've got 2 little crack houses. You want those? And I was like, yes, I do. And in my world, a crack house is, when you're standing inside of it, if you go inside of it, because I haven't been inside of these, but you can see outside through the cracks in the walls.
That's the crack house. I see it. Right.
It's like an egg. It's cracked.
Right.
So I got 2 of those. And the first one, I said to myself, I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get this one? Well, they're both ugly, but one of them was on fire. and it was the pretty one of the two.
Okay.
Which tells you how ugly the second one was.
Right.
Or it should. It does to me. So, I had it under owner finance. I had them both owner finance. But the first one, let's just talk about it. So he was going to let me pay him $6,000 over the next like 3 or 4 years at $200 a month.
Okay.
Like nothing, right? I mean, nothing. And I put it out on the market for $15,000 and $400 a month, depending on how much you could put down.
Okay.
So it took me about 6 weeks, and I had a lot of people looking at it and a lot of things going on or whatever. And finally the neighbor called and they were like, okay, we're definitely going to do this. I've talked to him 2 or 3 different times. They agreed to give me $5,000 down and pay me $300 if I would take $12,000 total.
Oh, I see.
And I was like,
let me think about it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, I'm definitely doubling my money.
Doubling my cash, right.
But the thing that most people don't do when they get a deal is they get a good enough deal and they stop.
What now? Define that. What do you mean good enough deal? Because that's interesting.
They're going to double their money. On this one, I've got it under contract for $6,000. I've sold it for $12,000. I'm going to make $100 a month. I'm getting $5,000 down. Like, this is good enough. Like, this is pretty good, right?
All right. Yeah. So compared to what you're saying then is if you have a target or a goal and you want to make 15 grand, obviously, and if sometimes you just need to be able to accept something less because obviously it's doubling your money. I agree. I think that sometimes you need to take the money and run, right? But when do you do that? When is the time when you do that? Because you could hold out and potentially you could have made, 6,000 down and 15,000 or whatever. When is that time where you go, I should just do this? Did you take a time frame of how long you market it? How long did it take you from when you got it to whenever you got that money down?
It took me 6 weeks. But the thing is, I don't focus on trying to get more money out of the buyers. I went back to my seller and renegotiated.
There you go. Okay.
So I went back to him and I said, okay, I've got $5,000. How much do you want for this house? I can't give you all of it. I just told him that. I mean, because he's going to see it. It's on the paperwork. He was like, I'll take $3,000 for it.
So he took $3,000 for the whole house?
No owner financing, no payments, just $3,000 in and out and done.
Now, did you present that to him where he can do either or?
No. I said, all right, instead of doing this owner financing deal, instead of taking all this time and doing all this stuff, What if I just gave you money on Friday?
Would that be okay?
How much would you take? And he was like, I'd take $3,000 for it, which is half of what he agreed to, but money now versus money over time.
That's a great point. What is it? The fast dime over the slow nickel, right? I mean, basically, whenever you can reverse that, whenever you're working with someone that you want to get something from, you want to use the fast dime analogy, obviously, because, that's often going to work in your favor. And it is so true, right? The interesting thing about it is that you came to them, you said, and you came to the guy, what was his name?
Eric.
So you came to Eric and said, I got some money. What if I just paid you on Friday? What would you take? Right. And now it's in his ballpark of saying what that number is. So if he would have said 4,000, you would have still gave it to him. If he would have said 5,000, you probably would have still gave it to him. I mean, but the interesting thing is you still had 6,000 and you're paying that $200 a month for whatever, 5-6 years, whatever it was. And that was, I guess that was just straight, no interest, right? On it. It was
no interest.
Straight principal.
And nothing down.
Yeah, nothing down. I mean, so essentially that was you made such a home run on that deal. You didn't ask for more money down from the buyer. You renegotiated, like you said, with the homeowner of that. So what did you learn from that process? Was that your first crack house? That's your first low house deal like that?
Yes. But I've done 2 more since then.
You've done 2 more since then, right? So, is it safe to say that you're the crack house queen? I mean, is
not yet? I don't think 3 is enough.
Okay. So, does he have other houses that he can sell you?
Yeah, he had 11 others. These were the only ones that he had empty that he just really didn't want.
Right.
But, the thing is, I'm new in town. I wanted houses. Yes. I can pay cash. Yes. I can close quickly. All those things that people say they do and they don't actually do. Right. I did it in a new town. Right. So he's going to tell everybody that I am really doing this thing and you should call me and you should deal with her.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, I would say getting as referrals, and then also, did you look around in the neighborhood as well on who?
I'm going to buy the whole neighborhood for like $100,000. I'm going to have like 17 houses this year for $100,000, and I'm not going to have anything in any of them.
I love it. That's great. That's great. Okay,
you really can't. The lesson is, whenever I was doing, the bigger houses, the $200,000 houses, it was very rare that I got enough down to cover the purchase price, Yeah. I've gotten close sometimes. I had a house in Tennessee that had an outhouse with it. I mean, like a real Tennessee house.
Wow.
And so the joke there was, is it a 2-1? Is it a 2-2? I mean, do we get to count that? There's a hose outside.
There's an AC. Could you put an AC in the... It gets hot in the outhouses, I hear. I mean...
So, I had that one. I gave $17,000 for it. Somebody gave me $5,000 to move in. They stayed for a year at $500. I'm up to $11,000. They left. Somebody else moved in, gave me $5,000 to move in. I'm up to $16,000. They paid $500. So I'm free and clear on my money now, and I've sold it twice. The first time I sold it for like $35,000. The second time I sold it for $45,000, and I'm still basically no money in it after 3 years?
It's powerful, right? So you're alluding to something really powerful with the lease options. You said you sold it twice. Now, the interesting thing, I sold a house back in the day. I don't want to age myself too much here but I was one of the first that I know of selling houses on eBay with lease options. So I would actually put the option consideration money as the dollar amount that you had to pay for the auction on eBay. And so then I set the term. So I didn't care if it ended at $100 or $1,500. It was all just gravy to me. I wanted somebody that agreed to the terms. And so I sold the same house 7 times. It's no joke.
7? Oh, man.
7 times. They would get in, they'd fix a little bit of it up, and they'd leave. They'd get in, fix a little bit up, and I'd get another $3,000, another $2,500, another.
Yep.
And so I actually paid off the house from the option consideration number. Or option consideration. So I know about this, but I haven't done a lot of them in a while. And I know again, you and Joe are just focusing highly on them. So walk me through on when you said you sold it twice now, right? That person gave you the house back, and you were still on the hook to make that payment from the original homeowner, or how did you set that up?
I had it free and clear. I had the $17,000.
Okay.
So I committed the sin of putting my own money in a property. I get it. I'm sorry. But I was learning. So, going back, I wouldn't do that. But the guy I bought it from had to have the money because he owned a business and he needed a new truck and he needed $17,000 and he had this house and needed a truck and.
Right. Okay.
And really it wasn't my money. It was like, that was in October and I'd started in February. So I used option fee money that I'd gotten on other houses. It wasn't like my savings. It was,
but you used a chunk of capital at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you got the house back. So, okay. And then you just resold it again for $10,000 more or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So now I'm 3 times on my money. If and when they get a mortgage, more than likely, they're going to leave. I know they've already broken up, so they're going to leave.
Right. Do you qualify whenever these folks get in? Do you run them through? What kind of qualifications do you run them through?
I use a company in Pennsylvania called Screen the Tenant, and they find out everything but their underwear color. I don't do any of that. I just get the report back, and I say yes or no.
What does it cost, like $15, $20?
It's $50.
Really?
And the tenant buyers pay it, and they have no problem paying it.
Okay. $50. Wow. Pretty, more expensive than
It's a credit check, a criminal history check, a past landlord, a employment verification, and I don't even know what all. It comes back in like a ream of paper. I'm like, ooh, wow. Can you teach me how to read this?
Wow. Okay. So, and so how many times does it take for you to usually how many applications does it take? Do you know that number on whenever your lease option, if you're, obviously it's a little different for different houses, but how many applicants do you typically have to go through before you find a good one?
It really depends because it is such a high application rate. I don't have a lot. I'll have one or two, but they usually, they've given me money. I've gotten in situations before where it was a bidding war on the option fee. I had somebody at $8,000, I had somebody at $12,000, and then somebody else came in at $40,000.
Wow. Interesting.
So I went with the 40,000 person, and then they left in 6 months, and I sold it again and got another 10,000 down on it. And this is a property that I have under lease option, so I'm doing a sandwich lease option on it. Gotcha. And I've got it for like 80 or 85,000. Like I've almost collected in a year enough to pay off the whole house, and I've got like 5 years to pay it off.
So Whitney, talk about the sandwich lease option a little bit for those that don't understand that. What you mean by that? Okay,
so I talk about a lot of people, and I call them bridge people. So when you graduate college or you get established and you're going to be an adult, you buy a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and it's cute and whatever. And then you get married and you have one kid, and then you get an extra dog, and you have to go get a 3-2, and then maybe you have another one and get another dog. And now you need a 4, 2.5. But you've kept these houses back that you've bridged your life from. And, we just found tenants. We had buddies that were getting out and they had crap credit. And so we just let them rent it and it was all fine. It was all good until the kids got to 8, 9, 10, 12 and they had ball games and recitals and everything. And our parents were getting up and then we had to go take care of the parents more. And then we're trying to climb the corporate ladder. And suddenly it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. We cannot handle these 2 houses in our bridge anymore. And, a lot of times, sometimes people that are accidental landlords like that, they let people move out and they don't ever put anybody else in it because it's too much of a hassle to re-rent it. I'll just make the $500 a month payment. It's not worth it. And so then 2 or 3 years go by.
Without having money come in, right? That they're just doing it just out of convenience, basically.
Yeah. Not because they're lazy. They just have a lot of life going on. And they're not behind. They're not missing payments. They don't want their credit ruined.
Sure.
Because they want to go buy a lake house. But they just don't want to even take the time to list it and do anything. So I find those people who are either tired of being landlords or they were accidental landlords to start with, and I take over their payments. I take over whatever's left on the mortgage from them, and I take it over as is. So you don't have to do anything. If you've moved states, if you've moved counties, I'll take it right here, right now, like it is.
Give us an example. Give us an example of one.
One like that? Okay, so I had one like that. It was a 3-2. It was in Dandridge, and I started in Dandridge. Most people want to go where everybody else is investing and all the other people are. I went like way opposite of where everybody else was because nobody out there was making any offers but me. I'm like in my own little play box.
You wanted to be you wanted to be a little shark in a big town or a big shark in a little area? You didn't want to have a lot of competition.
Yeah, I didn't even want to be a shark. I just didn't want to get eaten by the sharks.
Right, okay.
I didn't want that like this when I started. I just wanted to figure it out without everybody like watching me. And then I went into town and I was like, hey, boys, I'm here now.
What's going on?
Pretty good now. So I got that house under contract, and that one was exactly like that. They'd moved on. They just didn't want the house, and they tried renting it. It didn't work out, and they'd just been making payments on it for I don't even know how long, and they were just tired of it. So I found somebody that wanted to move into it and make the payments on it and give me money to move in, and it was a perfect house. It didn't need anything. Didn't need to be flipped. Didn't need to be painted. The yard maybe.
Right.
And so that's the deal is if you can get these houses, and these people don't want any money down. They just want somebody to take over their payment.
Right.
They don't need any work. So I don't have any money out. I had a $10 check out on it. I found somebody to give me $5,000, move in, start making the payments. And they started making the payments before I had any due. So I got 2 months worth of rent that I didn't have any payments for.
Sure.
So that's what, the sandwich is. I go out, I find the deal. I'm more like a real estate matchmaker than anything else, which I think is what a broker is supposed to be, but we won't get into that. So and then I go out and I find somebody that usually has bad credit, or they're new to the area, or they're a small business owner and they just don't work out on paper to go get a mortgage. But they can. And if I'll give them time, they can improve their credit or establish a job history, get their W-2s in order, and then buy the house regularly. But I've only had one guy actually get a mortgage. Most of them boomerang and come back.
Out of 50, out of 58 or whatever. Right. And so
I don't know if
that's a part of that game, right? Is how are you, I mean, it's not your responsibility, obviously, whenever you have someone get into your house to make sure that they don't go and make unwise decisions. And that's unfortunately, your story is not uncommon in terms of the people that actually execute their option and cash out of their house. So the question is, what can you do to get a stronger conversion, of those lease options? And I don't know if there's an answer to that. On the other side of it too, I don't know if it's even more profitable for you to, for them just to give the house back to you and sell it again. So it
depends on your time frame, because if you only have 5 years or you lose your right, then you want to hurry them up.
Yes.
Or find, a private money partner, get it paid down low enough that you get a private money partner to come in and then pay them off. So, it starts to be a lot more moving pieces. But, I've got some houses, I got 15 years on them. I'm going to pay them off by the time it's all done. And then I'll just have a free rental house.
What's great about what you're doing, what Joe's doing, what other people are doing with lease options, is this is the elephant in the room, right? Is that you're not personally guaranteed on any of this debt.
That's right.
But yet you get the benefit of the cash flow.
John Ionotti was my first mentor, and his favorite thing, I think he said it 3 times a day on our calls, was control without ownership. Control
without ownership. So the other question is, who are you having make the payments? Because obviously you're not expecting, are you, whenever you're that person's making the payment to you, they're making that payment to you, to your company, right? And then are you personally or your company making a payment for the homeowner that you got the deal from, or do you have another service that you're paying that makes the payments for it?
My LLC pays the mortgage company, pays the bank.
Okay. So you don't have a servicer. You're not using a servicer. Some folks use a servicer on these deals.
I think that it may be the area, it may be the volume that you're doing also. And I'm starting to get to where I'm like, all right, this is a lot. I need, somebody
I might need a servicer, right? Because at some point, it's all fun whenever you got, 20, 30 deals, but then you start to cruise like you are, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Now you get 100, it may make a lot of sense to pay that extra $30, I think 20 or $30 to take.
Another thing that, a lot of people talk about too is they teach you how to hire this person to do that and this to this and this and this. When I talk about doing these lease options, I'm a one-woman show. I talk to the sellers. I answer my calls. Okay. I put the lockbox on. I hang the bandit signs. I don't do open houses, but I give the buyers, what they need. It's all me.
Yes. Okay.
I have an attorney that finalizes everything. I have Screen the Tenant that does the applications and stuff. Occasionally I'll have a girl or somebody post up to Craigslist for me, but it's not, getting an acquisitions manager and getting this there to do that and getting this to do that and getting all of that. I do it all kind of old and slow.
Okay. So,
pen and paper kind of girl.
Pen and paper. Okay. So the question is, one, how's that working out for you? Right.
It's good, but it's right. I'm starting to teeter-totter to where I'm either going to need somebody to do it or I'm going to have to put it on hold or something.
And this is the other question that, on another mastermind group that we have this question comes up a lot, which is, ownership or control. So as an entrepreneur, we typically are control freaks.
Oh, for sure. Girls. Amen. Hi.
Guys and girls. And we don't want to give up control. And one of the big aha moments I had before I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2012, but praise God, I overcame that, was whenever I let go of control, I got more of it. So it's a very deep thing to internalize, and it's counterintuitive. What I mean by that is I thought that me controlling everything was the best way to have control. And then what I realized, fast forward till today, I wouldn't be able to do the things that you want to do, right? Like vacations and maybe just go to the park whenever you want to with, our 2 kids, or, go and we're going to go to Cancun here for 7 days here in about another week, go to Dallas, which we're in OKC for, just for the day, go and then still have deals being under contract, marketed, doors, with lot boxes being put on them, buyers contacted, closings happening without you even showing up at closing.
Yeah.
So, but none of that would have happened if I didn't let go of some of that control. And the only reason I'm saying that is it's a liberating thing. On the other side of it too, you're never, at least in your mind, you're never going to find somebody as good as you. So that's the reason that you have to ask the reason, why don't I? Okay, if I know it's better, first you have to get to a place if you know it's better or not. Then if you agree that that other place is better, then you have to ask your question, why don't I? And for me, I didn't. It's because I didn't think anybody could do it as good as the job as me. Let's be really transparent here. And the reality is that even today, there's a part of that ego pride thing that you mentioned that still makes me go, you know what? I could probably get a little better deal. I could probably get it sold fast. I could probably get that deal. I could have probably got that for another $2,000 lower. I could have probably, there's still a little bit of that. But the part that's interesting now is that even if you don't find somebody 100% as good as you will find people all day long as 70 or 80% as good as you. And if they're 70 or 80% as good as you, they can be molded and worked into, into something a lot closer. The other thing is that you may actually surprise yourself, Whitney, and find somebody that's actually better at it than you are in terms of one specific thing. Because here's why. They focus on that one thing. We have acquisition managers, right? They focus on going and talking to the homeowners and getting the deal under contract.
And that's all.
That's it. That's all they do. Then we got a person that does dispositions, and they focus on talking to buyers and getting the deal closed and up to with transaction coordination. So when everybody has roles and everybody knows what it's supposed to do, then you start having this way different situation. Now you start asking yourself, what am I doing? Right? And that is, your job is to run the organization from the CEO's job is to look at the organization from altitude and understand because when you get up higher, one of my mentors, Evan Pagan, he had this program called Altitude. It's $10,000 a person to come to this event, 10 grand. And, Russell Brunson was one of the guys there, and a bunch of all these guys you see on the internet that are just crushing right now. And he mentioned whenever you get higher above your situation, everything looks smaller. So you're thinking, oh, that makes sense. But then he mentioned that as you get closer, it gets bigger. But he says you can still see, when you have altitude, you can still see where things should be moved around and still, get it over here. And he says the other thing is that you're not in the maze. As an entrepreneur, we tend to be in the maze. And I'm not saying anything that I know you haven't heard in terms of, the E-Myth revisited, which is working on your business versus in your business, that kind of thing. Being the being the the transaction guy, compared to being the integrator, right? Being the integrator or being the mechanic, I guess, in the E-Myth it talks about being the mechanic, where you're tinkering things with all the time. So just one thing that was the aha moment, I thought I'd share it with that as you mentioned that, is letting go actually will give you more control.
Well, I think you said the key word is that when you've molded them. I think, from my perspective, I wanted to feel all of those roles and to work through them so that when I was ready to assign somebody to something, they knew how I wanted to do it. Now, they could tweak it and make it their own, but they still, and I knew what they were dealing with.
Yes.
When you start something new and you tell somebody to go do something and you don't even know how to go do that yourself.
Right. Yeah. It gets a little weird.
That's where I get, kind of like, go do it yourself.
Right. Right.
And you don't have to do it forever, but get good at it so you can help.
Yes. Yeah. I totally get it. There's a big jump, just mentally. It's a mental jump whenever you actually are relying on a team to help get things accomplished, and there's real dollars. I mean, there's real dollars being spent, right? And you're like, listen, this is not monopoly money. This is, it's real money. And there's, then you got families that they're relying on you. They've got a bunch of other things. And so there's other parts of it that are new acceptances. But I think that if you ever want to really build something that can work without you per se, right? Without your direct involvement every day, where you come into the office and you got 5 more lease options, then I think that, as you mentioned, building that team is going to be pretty important. Yeah. But I'll have to do it twice. I'll have a Tennessee person and a Georgia person to do everything. So, oh, Lordy, I can't do anything on a normal level. Moderation is not in my vocabulary. I love it. It's cool though. I always grew up thinking that a truckload of something was a dump truckload of it, and anything else was like, why bother? You're right. I mean, obviously you're incredibly talented. You're driven. You got all these this success. That's really cool. I mean, super cool. And so it's I think it's just stages, it's like stages. Really? When you start moving through stages, you start seeing things differently. And speaking of that, what was one of your big challenges that you faced, and how did you get through it? I had a really hard problem, and this is why I went, the opposite of what everybody else was. I was, I think, 29, and I was a little girl. That was last year, right? It was 3 years ago. I'm 32 now. And I wasn't married. Everybody kept expecting my husband to show up, and when are we really going to negotiate? Whenever your husband gets here. And so I went through a lot of bumps and bruises from people saying things and challenging me in ways that we're not supposed to be saying and doing anymore. I gotcha. Okay. So because you're a woman, is that why you got? Because I was too young. Okay, because you were too young. Okay. I was a woman. So the perception, sure. Okay. I wasn't offering cash. I wasn't offering normal stuff. I was helping, but I wasn't doing it the way they expected me to. And a lot of times I had one guy pat me on the head. And I saw stars. Oh my gosh, I was so mad. Oh my God. Oh my God. He was like, "You're so cute. Oh, you're going to buy my house." You're just like, let me at him, right? I was like, we're done here. Thanks. Well, how did you get through it? I mean, how did you push through that? Obviously, you got pretty frustrated. How did you overcome it? I'm just a bulldozer. You just rhinoed through it? This is what, I got this on my desk. See this? Yeah. Yep. So you rhinoed through it?
I did. I just kept going. I didn't let it bother me. I'm not going to say that I didn't break down and whine and cry on the kitchen floor a couple different times, but I didn't broadcast that. And I just kept going. And, you know, tomorrow is a new day. Every phone call is a different seller. Some will cuss you out and some will bake you cookies before you get there. And you just got to go.
So you didn't take it personal. You did your very best to just say, you know what, this is a part of the game. I'm not taking it personal. And then what can I learn from this, essentially, right?
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of the agents also were really mean to me because I wasn't listing houses. I was buying houses. And how can I do that with a real estate license? I'm like, how can you not? I mean, like,
right.
What are you talking about? So I got a lot of flack from them, and it was tough. My first year was very tough.
Sounds like
I learned a ton of lessons, and I'm still learning lessons. But you know, now I kind of have that train behind me, and I'm not brand new. I have done a bunch of deals. I've been through a lot of situations now, and I think, you know, now because I'm in my 30s, people take me more serious.
So you can speak with confidence, and you feel the confidence.
Yeah.
You know, so that's great. So if you had to start all over again, what would you do? What would you change? What's some advice for some new folks?
I would start sooner.
Okay.
I would start when I was 18 instead of, I think I was 28 or 29. I can't, depending on when my birthday was, but I wouldn't have waited so long, and I would have been buying, and I mean, cause now, you know, I buy houses and I buy land for less than I buy purses for. How many purses could I have bought if I'd been buying land instead of purses all through my 20s, you know?
I just got this purse for Leslie. Her birthday's coming up on June 2nd, and it's a Celine purse. And
Yeah.
It is not a cheap purse. These purses that you ladies have are not cheap purses. The Louis Vuittons,
Okay.
I mean...
So Louis Vuitton is a knockoff, and Goyard started this whole thing before Louis Vuitton.
Oh
And this is what a Goyard looks like.
I see.
And I am nutty over Goyards. I think Goyard started in like 1852 and Louis started in like 1853. I mean, they were like drinking partners until they were rivals. And yeah, so, and I was a Louis Vuitton girl until I found Goyard, and now I'm not.
Well, she loved, we could go into a rabbit hole here, but
Sorry.
yeah,
I like expensive stuff.
So what is there's
a person here.
What's a great lesson that you learned, going through this process, and what's helped you get to where you are today?
I mean, keep going. Like we said earlier, you've got to keep going. If it's a good deal right now or a bad deal right now, you've just got to keep going because you don't know which way it's going to turn. And, you know, like we said in the first example, go back and renegotiate. If it's a good deal right now, that's fine. But if it's not a good deal right now, keep going and see where you can go, and go back and renegotiate either with the seller or with the buyer to make it a better deal.
Okay.
Good enough is fine, but better is better.
Right. Well, I mean, you opened up, I think some people, you know, didn't think about that, like going back to the homeowner to renegotiate. But you did it in a way where it wasn't, you didn't say, you know, we can't do something, right? You came back and said, here's another option, right? And I think that's a pretty big differentiation from just going back and then trying to rechange your agreement and everything up, and you know, but making it where they almost choose, they make the choice for you. I think that's really good.
And I think I've gone back and renegotiated almost every deal. And sometimes, you know, I was going into it saying, I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to pay you for 90 days. And sometimes, you know, depending on how much I get, I'm able to go back and give you some money.
Sure.
I can make my payments sooner.
Sure.
I don't know that I've ever given anybody more on their purchase price, but, you know, there's other things that you can renegotiate. It's not just about the purchase price.
Not just about the purchase price, right? So what is it? What is it the most important thing to you when you're looking at a deal?
Okay, so when I'm doing lease options, I'm talking about 3 different ways that I can make money. There's 3 different ways I can win in this situation. There's 3 different ways that the seller's winning, like all of that stuff, right? So we're working with the down payment or the option fee.
Okay.
I can make money there. I can make money every month.
Okay.
And I can make money in the purchase price. Now, I want to make money all three ways. If I give you nothing down and I get 10,000, I just made 10,000. If I'm making your payments for $750 and I can rent it for $1,250, now I'm making $500 a month.
Right.
And if I can buy it from you for $200, but it's definitely going to be worth $240 or $250, there's more money I'm going to make. And that's just on the first time I sell it. If I get to do it again, now I've already paid you down. You don't even know that I've got somebody else in it.
Right.
And I get to do it all again, maybe make more money per month, maybe make more up front. Definitely going to make more on the back end payday because I've paid it down and it's still worth $240 or $250.
And whenever you get that option agreement, do you go file it at the county?
I file mine. I don't file my tenant buyers.
Right.
It's not that I just don't
file your affidavit and memorandum or your option agreement. What do you file?
I think I get a land contract and a promissory note in Tennessee.
Okay.
Or I just file the lease option. I mean, I have attorneys that handle both sides of it for me. I don't do that.
Okay. But you protect your interest, right? You're protecting your. So what happens if the homeowner declares bankruptcy? Or what happens if they get into a divorce? Or what happens when something like that, comes up? Do you have those discussions before you get into this deal with them, or do you just hope and pray?
Okay, so my people are not behind on payments.
Okay.
So they're not on the bankruptcy path. And I'm not going to say that something crazy is not going to happen and they're going to file bankruptcy.
Right.
But, people that are behind on payments and they have a history of accidentally kind of sort of getting behind every once in a while, they're on one path. People that would, make the kids eat peanut butter sandwiches for a week so they don't miss the payment are on a different path. And those are my people.
Gotcha.
So it's the people that I work with.
Okay.
And I tell them, we're basically getting married into this deal together. I'm going to do my part. You're going to do your part. You can't, put any liens against this house. You can't take any credit out against this house. Like, this is it. We are locking it down right now, freezing it where it is. It's only going down from here, buddy.
In a good way.
That's right. Money is going down. And they're usually just so glad. And, the problem is when you go in and you help somebody, they get immediate relief. And then a year from now, it doesn't hurt them as bad anymore. And maybe they don't want to deal with you as much. But, if you treat somebody right in the beginning and you help them and you show them that you're good and you're going to do whatever, even if you have to go back and renegotiate a year or two later to get longer terms or to extend or, whatever, they're going to be more likely to work with you and to help you if you've done everything that you said you were going to do up until now.
Sure. Absolutely. Sure. And do you usually lock it in for a year with a year option to renew, or do you do a 5-year or 3-year? How do you normally lock it in? In the beginning, I did a couple for 2 years is the least I've ever taken. And so I've already had to extend those. Do you have to pay to extend it, or you just say, listen, I just need to extend it. It's taking longer.
If you offer to pay, they want it. But if you don't offer it, it might not occur to them.
Sure.
So I just, extend it.
Extend it. Gotcha.
And, but now I teach my students to get 5 or 10 years or more because it really takes a good minute to get this rhythm going and to get the situation. And, I want that first 5 years, and it's not that I'm trying to trick anybody, but after we've been in this for 5 years and they're good and we're good, it's a lot easier to extend for another 5 than just trying to get 10 up front.
Yes.
It's easier to extend than get it all in the beginning.
Yes, totally. That's great. What's one of your favorite motivational or business quotes? You sound like someone that has a lot of motivation. And so did you listen to Tony Robbins, or what's one of your favorite business quotes?
I didn't know Tony Robbins or Russell Brunson or any of those guys when I got started. I was too busy trying to get something done to, go that route. But when I started, my favorite verse was that with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. And I held on to that and held on to that until I found Proverbs 31:16. And I don't know where you are, but in Tennessee and Georgia, like, we all want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. Yes. She's virtuous, her husband's honored, yes. Blah, blah, blah. Well, verse 16 says that, and I use the New Living Translation, but it says that she goes to inspect a field and she buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So she is a real estate investor. She knows what she's doing. She doesn't have to ask anybody for permission. She doesn't have to borrow any money from anybody. She just goes out and buys it. And then with her money, she plants a vineyard. So now she's got generational wealth.
I love it.
Forever and ever and ever, for her kids, for her husband, like, for all this stuff. And she just handles it all right there. And I've got books of Bible studies. And there's always, pages and pages and chapters on everything about Proverbs 31, except 16. There's usually a paragraph and it says, go buy real estate. Now 17.
That's great.
But I love Proverbs 31:16, and she buys it is my quote.
I love that. I never heard that before. I've read the Bible several times, and that's a great differentiation. I think a lot of people get pretty inspired by you saying that and encouraged. As well. What books do you recommend? What's one that's really changed your life? Obviously the Bible has, but what's a great book that you recommend?
I just read this book last December. Have you ever heard of Berry College? It's here in Rome, Georgia. It's a non-denominational school, but it's the largest land campus in the world.
Wow. No, I haven't.
And it was started by a woman in like the early 1900s. And throughout the 20s and the 30s during the Depression, she just bought and bought and bought and bought and bought, right? And there's a whole book on her. It's called Miracle in the Mountains. Wow, okay. And her name was Martha Berry. The school's named after her. But she is the largest land-size campus in the world.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. And the deer will come up and eat out of your hand.
That's great. Wow.
And they only have like 3,000 or 4,000 students. I mean, it's like nothing. But her story is so inspirational, and she was under the radar all through. I mean, she's like a power hitter, like hanging out with the president and Henry Ford and like some big guys, and nobody's ever heard of her.
That's great. That's cool. That's a Proverbs 31 woman.
It is. It really is. Yes.
Not boastful. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the show notes. I love any great recommendation on books, and so do the listeners.
I know. Okay, so Berry College is a non-denominational school, but the coolest part about it is that Chick-fil-A owns a 4-star resort on Berry College campus, and they do marriage retreats there. They do kids retreats there. I've been to stepmom camp there. It's fabulous. I hold a real estate retreat there. They let me squeeze in because they were empty one weekend.
That's great. That is cool. Yeah.
So that's they got a lot of money running through there right now.
So it's called Miracle in the Mountains.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Miracle in the Mountains. Do you have a mobile app that you use on a daily basis, or are you more the pen and paper kind of? You mentioned that before we got on here that you're kind of talking about some of the pen and paper, but do you have a mobile app that you use daily?
Facebook. We're Facebook friends now. I'm kind of annoying on Facebook.
Anything in your business that you use for your
Facebook?
Mobile?
I get leads off Facebook.
Okay,
I buy
so let's talk about that.
Facebook.
How do you get leads off Facebook?
I have 12 templates. I have a 7-day lead challenge to buy houses off your personal page. No boosted posts, no page managers, no nothing. Just you have enough friends on Facebook that if you are talking to them properly, you should have a pipeline full, if not 4 or 5 pipelines full on Facebook. I've bought lots of houses just from being mouthy on Facebook.
So when you say mouthy, can you give me an example?
Okay, so I'm doing a webinar right now, and I give an assignment at the beginning of the webinar for you to go to Facebook, go to your personal page, and just say, hey, all, I talked to a lady earlier today. She's moved out of Knoxville, but she's still got a house back here, and I bought it from her. So now I'm just wondering, does anybody else in Knoxville have a house that they have, but they live out of state? Tag them in the comments or send me a message and connect us. I'll buy their house from them. Just easy breezy stuff. And people love dirty pictures on Facebook.
Dirty pictures.
So I bought a house 2 weeks ago, and there's poop flowing out of the toilets, both of them. And I mean, and I'm standing there. I've got an Hermes scarf on. I got my Lily dress on. There's poop just behind me, and people love that picture.
So you have fun with you use the shock marketing, right?
Absolutely. I do. People love it because they don't want to do it. They don't want to get close to it.
Right.
But they want to see somebody else do it.
Sure. They want to make sure that you live through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do lives out, and people love when I do a Dirty House live. And that house stunk. I've never been in a house that stunk so bad, and I go in lots of stanky. So
you call it Dirty House Live, and you get on Facebook and call it Dirty House Live. That's a great subject line. That's great.
I went in one time, and I called it a cat house because, there had to be like 15 cats there. It stunk. You could smell them when you got out of the car on the street. But then I learned that meant something else, and I shouldn't say that without clarifying.
Oh, I see.
But when I said it was, under the radar. Like Martha Berry, I'm sliding in there.
When you have a lot of energy, do you get 8 hours of sleep a night?
I do, and if I don't, this doesn't happen.
I got you.
My husband hates it. I stick a pillow between us. I'm like, I'm sleeping tonight. We are not cuddling. Do not touch me. This is it. I'm going into my cocoon. I will see you tomorrow. He hates it, but whatever.
Oh, my gosh. What's your morning routine?
I really like to get up and go to the gym, and I don't do a solid hour, but I really like to lift weights. I like to get that aggression out in the morning and really get sweating. And I like having a trainer. I'm the kind of person that I want a mentor. I want a trainer. I want somebody to be accountable to, or I won't fulfill what I'm trying to do. And I also kind of like them for a little bit of a therapist.
Okay.
Somebody who's completely detached from me and my life.
Yes.
And I can kind of think through things with them, even though they probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, and in a safe spot too, right?
Yes.
They don't care. They're not involved with the situation. Right.
Yeah. So I like that. And, I like to come home and have my coffee and just like have my moment before, 8 or 9 or whenever we're getting started.
Things get going.
And I see women all the time, and I don't see men doing this, but I'm in a lot of real estate groups on Facebook, and the women are always talking about, what should I be wearing? What's professional but comfortable, and what, this and that and the other. I meet my sellers at the gym, no makeup, 7 o'clock in the morning, sweating, like, this is me. This is all you get. Like, if this is not professional enough for you, then we're just not going to do the thing. But I got the money, so do you want it? No makeup, money.
No makeup, money.
And I want to I'm like banging my head against the wall. They're like, what kind of closing gift should I get for this? And I'm like, why does that matter? It doesn't matter. But,
that's great. It's obviously you can tell that you're pretty, you transfer the enthusiasm. You're genuine. You're transparent. And I think those are really great qualities of, someone that can really do great with not only just with your own business, but building up that tribe, building up a bunch of people that will follow you. And one of the things I'm interested about is about mentorship. And have you hired a mentor before? And if you have, how important have they been in your life? You alluded to it a little bit just a while ago.
Yeah, the first mentor I hired was through Ron LeGrand, and I paid $15,000. And I got $15,000 back in my first deal. So I had basically 5 months of mentoring paid for. And I did 10 deals in those first 6 months. So, I used the mentor like they were supposed to. We didn't set up websites or whatever. We strategized. Like, I only had an hour. I could figure out a website by myself. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. Right.
And then when I started buying apartments, we hired a apartment mentor. Also.
Okay.
So I love having a mentor. I really do love having that person that has been there before me, understands, and can help me see from the high view where I need to move to, either twist more money out of it or get the deal done or
sometimes walk away.
Or sometimes it's best to let things rest.
Yes.
Instead of just hammering through them.
Yes.
And I think that goes back to what you were talking about in control.
Yes, it does.
You know, when you cook a steak, you don't cook it all the way. You cook it and then let it rest.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, sometimes you have to, the whole control thing is really interesting. I do a little kind of picture of like, I grab a chair and I say, who's in control of the chair? And so everybody, well, you're in control of the chair. So I just grab the chair and I say, okay. So I move up to a door and I cannot get through this door. I'm trying to get up through a door. And I said, now who's in control of the chair? And so, well, you're in control of the chair, right? And I said, well, I can't. So I try to go around this other way. I get over here in this room and I have this chair and everywhere I go, the chair goes with me. And even though sometimes we think we're in control of the chair is actually in control of us. You know, and it's just one of those things where you have the ability to let go of the chair, right? And so oftentimes we carry our chair with us through everything that we do, and we think that we're in control of it. But in reality is we can't get through doors. We can't go to certain wet places. We're not nimble as much. We often are heavier with the chair. We're slower, certainly, with the chair. So all these things I think are concepts, you know, but they're pretty, we don't have time to go all into them right now, but they're psychological depth of this kind of idea. And, you know, there is a lot of liberation that comes from, you know, just understanding whenever you do open yourself up to the fact that someone could be better at it than me, or at least they're 70% somebody as good as me. It really changes inside your view of yourself, which is really interesting too. And not in a bad way, but in a way where your mind is actually expanded further than just you being the person that does everything. You know, now you start to think, okay, if I give up that, what else can I give up? If that's getting done now, you know, pretty well, and I can see it getting better, you know, as I do another online video, because you can record a video, anything on the computer, you can record it, you can train it. Anything on the computer, you can record it, you can train it. And, you know, the only thing is other stuff is like in person, you can go meet somebody at Starbucks or, you know, wherever, and walk through the things you need to in person. The part is that is the part where it's almost like you're slowing down. And as an entrepreneur, maybe you can relate with this. We redline all the time. Imagine, you know, putting a gear in first gear all the time and just going down the road. And never moving the gear and just going as fast as you can in first. Eventually, you will blow your engine. You know, and the other thing is, there's some places that you can go. And again, I know we're talking in metaphors and concepts, but there's some areas that you can go. As an entrepreneur, we think we can go 0 to 100. That's all it is. There's 0 or 100. I'm either on or off. You know, it's hot or cold, right? But the reality is, if there's school zones, you know, and if you go 100, even though you can, you're going to kill somebody. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill a kid. You know, endanger others. And going back to a biblical philosophy, you know, in the Bible, I think it was Paul that said, just because all things are possible, not all things are permissible. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. I'm sorry. All things are possible, but not all things are beneficial. So, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think that, you know, this idea of letting go also opens yourself up to this idea of what else can I let go of, which opens up the other idea to, oh my gosh, now that I'm not doing everything, I can actually slow down and not feel guilty. And I think the feeling guilty part is probably one of the hardest things. Because a driven entrepreneur tends to work as hard as they possibly can and wear the badge of honor, because that's what got them to a certain place. That's what got somebody to a place. But they often get to a gap and they cannot get over this gap. They can see the other side, and it's beautiful, but there's this gap, and you've got to change. You've got to change the way that you think. You cannot be the same person to get to the other side that you are thinking in terms of thinking to where what got you to where you are. You have to actually let go of how you think, let go of who you are, and that is terrifying. That really is terrifying. That is a place where you're free falling and you're having faith. And, we can go into this even deeper, but the bigger part of this whole thing is faith. It is believing that things are going to take care of themselves. It's going to work out. It's going to actually be bigger and better, maybe not bigger, but better. And maybe better doesn't equal what you think better means. Maybe better is actually in the bigger picture, better long term, not just the short term, So you're letting go, having faith. I mean, I have a thing right here. It says, let your faith be bigger than your fear. When I walk in every day, I see it. Let your faith be bigger than your fear, and so I think that just going back to that point again, driving it home, that's probably the most beneficial part of those exercises and that kind of training is having faith.
That was the message I needed today.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. That was awesome. I wrote it all down. I wanted to say, when you were talking about the chair analogy, my students hold a no as a chair. One person will tell them no, and it'll stop them from getting out the door. Absolutely. On so many other ones, because they're carrying that one no when they could have helped 10 other people.
Absolutely. Yes.
The chair example, I'm going to use it in my lessons tomorrow.
What are you most grateful for? Whitney, you seem a happy person. You seem, like there's a lot of joy coming off you. You're beaming. What are you most grateful for?
My parents gave me some awesome opportunities. I mean, my mom, I can remember if we drove by a house that was under construction, she'd wait until the crew was gone and we'd go explore it. And she'd tell me where the pipes were. She'd explain to me, how to find the kitchen or the bathrooms or how to see the house before it was decorated. A lot of women only see the decorations. They don't see, kind of through the walls to what's making this house work. My dad used to take me to auctions on Saturday mornings. Like, that's what we did as a family. We did that.
Auctions or house auctions or
both. Stuff auctions, car auctions, house auctions, because a lot of exactly. Except I'm from East Tennessee, so I do real estate auctions. So it takes 10 minutes to get to $1 million instead of trying to go through 100 items a minute.
Right.
But, I just had a lot of really cool, unique opportunities. And, I worked in my mom's trucking business since I could, walk. Mm-hmm. Definitely in high school and middle school, going in the summers and working. And so, and when I was a kid, if I wanted to sell Girl Scout cookies or coupon books or, whatever I was wanting to do, I had to go do it. They didn't go do it and fill out my form for me. And I'm so grateful for that now. And, even thinking about like when I was in high school and making decisions on friends, because you're pretty much who your friends are, and your friends are, then you're going to end up like that too. And I didn't get it. And now I love them. I call my mom like once a week, and I call her like 3 times a day, but once a week specifically to be like, I love you. Thank you for not letting me hang out with them. Thank you for not doing this. Thank you for making me come home at midnight. Like I'm so grateful for my parents. They have been my cheerleaders. I tell them all the time, it's their fault I ended up like this. And they go, I know.
If you had to summarize it, why do you do what you do? When you get up in the morning, and you have to go to the gym or you have whatever, why? What's your why?
I don't like being told no. And I don't like somebody else telling me when I need to do something or how I need to do it. And part of that is being a millennial, I think. And part of it is that I want to figure things out and I want to make a bigger impact. I worked for the trucking company and it was fine and it was fun, but I could never figure out where I was really going to make my slice in the world dealing with dump trucks all day and every day.
Right.
There's a point where I still love dump trucks and, diesel fuel, oil, tires. Like, I love all those smells and sounds and things that come off a truck. But then it got to a point where it started to smell like diesel fuel and used tires and sweaty old men. And I was just kind of like, I want to go do something else. I want to figure something else out. And so it was really that, making my own path and really charging and really,
Right.
It's that pride thing again to say either I did this or I failed at it. And I'm not going to say that. That's one of my bad F words that we don't say. Foreclosure, failure, and financing.
Wow.
I don't deal with the F's. I don't have kids, so I don't have a why like that. I've got a dog. She snored the whole time we've been here, so
I haven't heard her.
But it's just that I don't want to live like everybody else. I want to do those 3, 5, 10 years of being weird and doing weird things so that I can have, be retired if I want to when I'm 40. Or, start my family and be a stay-at-home mom and still bring in $100,000 a month. That's what I want to do. I don't want to have to work and be a mom and barely make $100,000 a year. I want to do it all, and probably in reverse order.
Well, being, you have a lot of an ambition, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have ambition, maybe a prerequisite to be a really great entrepreneur. And I think also, in this field, in this space that we're in, I want to just, acknowledge you and congratulate you for being a woman that's also, really taking this space by storm. And for one, I would love to see more women be able to step in that space, to be able to teach, because I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And, and also just where we are in kind of our, economic times where, you can take advantage of some really incredible, properties and get into some situations where, in a couple of years, you could have, 200, 300 deals going if you want to. You could be, like we talked about, doing these bigger apartment complexes. The great thing about lease options is that it is a negotiation skill. It is a skill of I have to convince this other person that they just met, most likely, is someone reliable and that is going to take care of their issue. And they've got to rely on me. And I've got about, an hour to be able to have them, have that come across. And so not everybody can do that, Whitney. So congratulations on that. I think it's awesome, your success. I know that people are going to, listen to this a couple of times. You really gave away some great nuggets.
Thank you.
On here. And I think you also help people break through some mental things too. Just being open to, where things are just, you're very much a challenge driven person. I take it, and I think that's what it takes. It takes to, whenever you go through this business and you're going to have the expectation that there's going to be things that are, one, out of your control, two, that may not be a bad thing. And that part is the hardest thing to accept, because, whenever you're in control of something, then you are basically creating your own outcome from it. And there's a lot of power in that for sure, right?
And that's, if you want to use a term, that's being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that I live in the comfortable and the uncomfortable situation. And sometimes I get my foot in my mouth, doing that also. But, here where I am, I also tell people that I speak redneck. I don't really speak real estate, or at least I translate it well enough that, people get it. I talk regular talk. I've got lots of degrees and certifications, but that doesn't matter to somebody who doesn't understand it.
Yes.
And I'm really good at helping people see what the real problem is and how I fix that.
Yes. Great strength. You're a great communicator. Speak on that. How can we communicate with you? And what's the best way to get in touch with you? And how can we serve you?
You can go to whitneynicely.com. Whitney like Houston, nicely like nicely done. And also, I'm on Facebook all the time. I'm doing a 40 Facebook Live in 40-day challenge right now. So facebook.com/coach Whitney Nicely.
Okay.
I have so much fun teaching other people how to do this. We were talking about women. I started only wanting to coach women because lots of women inherit properties. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know, or they inherit money. They don't know what to do with that. And they end up following lots of different places. And then a year later, they don't have anything, or all of their assets are gone. And I coach mostly men, but my heart is for women to not let them fall in the gap because they weren't raised like I was.
Yes.
To be able to see through the walls and see where the money may be laying in the backyard and why you should keep this instead of flipping it and selling it.
Right. That's great. Okay, we're going to put this in the show notes as well, the way you get in touch with you, and the links in here too. Whitney, it's been awesome to be able to go through this, and really, like I said, you've really done a great job on this, and I know a lot of people learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'll be glad to come back.
That's awesome. Well, make sure you're on the next Profit Master podcast series. We're going to be bringing some incredible guests, just like Whitney, on here to give you some great information that can help you with business and in life. So appreciate you. Remember, be a servant. Bye now.
Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast Series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.